Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Loretta Lynn. Hello, baby.
Thank you, baby.
Have a seat. You look beautiful.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing?
I'm great. I have had more fun researching your life.
Really?
Boy, you've been everywhere with everybody and done everything, haven't you?
You did it again. Well, I've been quite a few places, but I haven't done anything with everybody.
I noticed you've sung with everybody from Ernest Tubb, Conway, Twitty to Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, and Dean Martin. Dean Martin or Frank, neither one would not practice. They told me, said, now when you come out on Dean's show, this is the way you walk. Now when you walk this way, he's not gonna know which way you're gonna take him, so nudge him. They wanted me setting Dean's out. They had this whole thing rigged up where when I got through doing my song, me and him together, he slung me around and twirled me and I sat in his lap. And I said, this ain't gonna happen. And they said, well, yeah, this is the way that the show's rolled out. This has to happen. I said, my mommy taught me to never sit in no man's lap. And I never seen my mommy sit in my daddy's lap. I am not gonna sit in Dean Martin's lap. So they had to rewrite the show. So the next morning when I went to practice, my room was so full of flowers, green, like them things right there. Mm-hmm. They were full, and I couldn't get in my dressing room. So I walked out of my dressing room, and there was a little tiny short man standing there, and I said, do you believe that somebody sent me so many flowers I can't get in my room to dress? He said, are you the little girl that won't sit in Dino's lap? And I said, I'm her. He said, well, I own the show. And I've never been down here to see a show, but I'd like to say one thing. All the millions of women that wants to sit in his lap, I had to come and see the one that would not. And I just said, you're looking at it.
Ah, that's funny. Loretta, when you were on the David Frost show, apparently you did something very controversial because you got a lot of people down on your neck, didn't you?
Yeah, I sure did. After that, though, I smartened up.
How's that?
Well, I started telling jokes instead of telling the truth.
Why did people get down on you?
Well, see, I've always kind of believed in, how do you call it, psychic.
Psychic phenomenon?
Yes, and reincarnation, stuff like this. And I don't know how David got a hold of it, but he asked me about it, and I told him. And I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of letters. You wouldn't believe the mail I got telling me that I wasn't right and, you know, where I was going. And so...
They predicted that you were going to the bad place, didn't
yeah.
they? Hmm.
So I had to write back and tell them that...
Did you write back to these people?
Yes.
Have your secretary do this?
No, most of the ones that really got really upset about it, I took care of it.
You wrote them a personal letter?
Yeah, I told them that there ain't no place in the Bible says there is or there ain't no reincarnation. And if you believe in God, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and live right and live by the Bible and do what God says do, why not go to heaven? Mm. And then I explained to them that the grass dies in the wintertime, comes back in the summer. The leaves fall in the winter, comes back in the summer, just like anything else.
Have you always believed in reincarnation?
Well, see, I didn't know that much about it till about 5 or 6 years ago. And then I started studying on it a lot. And have had a lot of experiences with it, or I wouldn't have believed in it.
First time I ever went to town, I never went to an inside bathroom, you know? I never seen one. So I really had to go. And so I went, they took me to the bus stop to go to the bathroom, did. So I went into the bathroom, and when you sit down on that toilet, it starts flushing just as you sit down on that thing. Mm-hmm. I jumped up off that thing, and I had a trail from the toilet all the way out of the bus stop. Dude said, what happened? I said, that thing was going to suck me down in it. No, it scared me to death.
How
have you ever seen one of them
things? Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
You know what I'm talking about,
Yes, I do. Was that in Paintsville?
Have you all ever seen one? That's in Paintsville, Kentucky.
Okay.
At the bus stop.
How old were you when you and Dew got married?
13. I was almost 14, just about. So close to it, we'll say 14.
When you got married, did you know anything about sex?
Now, you got to be kidding me.
No.
You really do have to be kidding me.
No. I saw the movie. I read
I
the
didn't know
book.
nothing about a boy, let alone sex. The only thing I'd ever done was be throw a little note across the room to, it was my first cousin, it's Bobby Ray Webb, and I got struck on him. So I'd say violets are red, no, violets are blue. Well, now.
Roses are red?
Roses are red, violets are blue, angels in heaven know I love you. Cross the schoolhouse and go. And then I get whipped for it, you know.
Where did you think babies came from?
Well, don't ask me. Daddy always said he picked up a cabbage leaf and found me. And, you know, when I was pregnant with my first kid, I was getting a little fat, but I never thought a thing about it. And Duke said, Loretta, I think you should, he called me Loretta. He said, I think you ought to go to the doctor because you're getting fat. And I thought, well, big deal. I've seen a lot of fat people. But he said, well, I think you ought to go to the doctor. So I went to Dr. Turner, and he's in the hospital right now, bless his heart. And Dr. Turner said I was pregnant. He put me up on this table and stuck my feet in these daggone stirrups. Now, you ladies know what I'm talking about. Threw this sheet over me, and I just covered my head up with it. My whole bottom end was sticking out, though. But, you know, I didn't want him to see my face.
Right.
So I didn't want him to see no part of me, but what could I do? And he said, you're pregnant. And I said, well, what's that? And he said, you're going to have a baby. And I said, there ain't no way I can have a baby. He said, well, you got married, Loretta. And I said, yeah, but there ain't no way I can have a baby. He said, don't you sleep with Doolittle? And I said, yeah. He said, you're going to have a baby. And I was about 4.5 months pregnant.
Why did you and Doo move to Washington?
His father had moved him out there.
Okay.
And when he come out of the Army, his family had split up, his mom and dad, and his daddy was still out there, and his mom and the kids lived in Kentucky.
Did you start singing at about the same time?
Oh, I was humming and yodeling and carrying on, not really yodeling, I never could yodel, but just singing ever since I've been a little tiny thing, but never sang in front of nobody.
That was hard for you the first time, wasn't it?
Like to died. I would start getting a migraine headache on Thursday when Doo got me this job.
Doo got you a job singing in a nightclub?
I got $5 for singing. And I would get a migraine headache on Thursday and wouldn't get over it till I'd be getting over it on Tuesday. And starting back again on Thursday, I'd get it again, you know.
The first time you went out there and sang,
Oh, my God.
what'd you sing?
There he goes.
That's the one song
He's
you knew.
walking away. I learned that from Webb Pierce.
Now, in the movie, you sang 2 songs that first night. Is that true?
That first night, let's see.
The first night you went on stage in that nightclub.
Yes, because Doo took me over to these guys' house that had this little place that they were working. And they had told Doo that, we can't let her get up and sing. It was a little dance hall. We can't let her get up and sing. We don't do things like that. But if she's any count, bring her over on Wednesday night. We might listen to her. Well, on Wednesday night, they filmed a little, or didn't film, but they taped a little radio show that played on Saturday in Bellingham, Washington. They were the Penn brothers. So they'll be hearing this. They know. So they were called the Western Years, and there was 4 of them. And I walked in, I'd learned that song out of a songbook, and I'd heard Webb Pierce sing it. So when I walked in, we knocked on the door, they looked like they were so shocked. And I was so upset and embarrassed that when I walked on in, they said, what do you want to sing? And I said, there he goes. They said, what key? And I said, I don't know. They hit A, and I just hung on. And they said, all right, we're going to put you on our radio show. And the next morning at 7, Doo had just left for work that morning. They got there just right as he left the next morning and hired me to sing with them on a Saturday night. And they gave me $5. And I bought me a felt hat, Acme boots for $14, and I got me they're in my museum down at my house, and I got me a black skirt with white fringe on it and a black shirt with big old red roses.
I want to go back to Washington State, I insist.
There he goes again. We were out there, wasn't we?
Now, there's another fella out there, he was rummaging around Washington State, and he was looking for a break, and his name was Buck Owens. You remember that?
Yeah, he was down in Tacoma.
How'd you meet Buck?
Well, he was down in Tacoma working in this bar. It's the loudest bar I ever heard in my life. An honorous bar I've ever been in. But I ain't gonna tell the whole story, Buck. I swear I won't. But anyway, I got there, and he was having a little talent show. So Duke always knew when things were going on. Don't ask me, because I was home with 4 kids. He knew that he had a little talent show. So he says, I'm gonna take you down to the talent show. So he bought me a little dress. And so it was a little black and white dotted dress. And my slip hung, and it just was tearing me up because I knew my slip was hanging while I was on that talent show. I was worried sick. And so I got up to sing. He finally talked Buck into letting me get up to sing and said, I want her to get I want her to be in the talent show tonight. Buck says, well, we've already got everybody that we need. And he says, well, now we've come all the way from Custer, Washington. Buck, you're going to listen to her. Buck listened to me. And he put me on the show, and I won. So you could take a man watch or a woman's watch. And I took the man watch for Dew. So Dew went to work the next morning, and it fell all to pieces. Fell all to pieces. So when I went back down to see Buck, I said, Buck, you need to take this watch back and do something with it. And he said, what do you expect for $3?
Well, wait a minute.
So I thought it was going to be something great.
Just a second. Let's get Buck's version. Buck, are you there?
Yes, I am here, and I'm enjoying.
Yes, he is.
I'm enjoying every bit of that.
You booger. Hey, what about that bar? Wasn't that loud?
Well, yes, but I want to tell you my version of this, Ralph, that I remember.
Yeah.
We were doing a TV show. We was working in the bar and was doing a TV show on Saturday, and she got it up on her cable up there at Blaine. And when she came down the first time, I remember seeing her. She wore this blue suit with white fringe all over it, and she had on a white hat and white boots.
Yeah.
And she won our talent contest. You know, the guy's name was Steve something or other. About an hour later, she went down to the next. There was another club about
a block away.
Yeah, block. And she went in there and she won that. And she chose both those. They had beautiful cases and they were beautiful. She chose another man's watch in there.
No, I took a woman's.
Oh, did you? Well, anyway, later on, she told me neither one of them ran, and she put that in her book, too.
But Buck.
Hey, Buck, why were you
We had good times, didn't we, honey?
Oh, we had great times.
Yeah.
Great times.
Why were you giving such cheap watches away?
Well, it wasn't me. It was those people I was working for. I was just like Loretta, you know. I was just trying to make a living, and I bet you I've had 500 people ask me, how did you meet Loretta? And I don't never get to tell that story first. They say, well, that ain't the way she told it. And I said, well, somewhere in between all that's probably what's right.
Somewhere in between that's the truth.
Now, Buck, you had what, a weekly television show there in Tacoma?
Yeah, I was a disc jockey there. I used to write to you, trying to get you to play my records.
You were at Puyallup, Washington.
Yeah, Puyallup, you remember that. He always remembers that.
I still have one of those postcards. Had your picture on it.
Oh, my lad.
I kept it.
Yeah.
Well, Buck, I got things of you too back then. I got me and you in that car when you had that crew cut, that convertible you had.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doolittle took us going down the highway. You ought to have seen us.
I want to tell you that a little while after that, Don Rich and I got started a little bit. We came back up to play over in Cloverdale. Was that the name of it?
Yeah.
And Loretta and her band was our backup band. And so we went by their house to eat. And dude used to never let me forget this. He went down to the store and he bought these big old steaks. And they cooked the steaks and they was big and I'm sure they was good. But he always laughed at me. He said, Don Rich and I, all we did was sit there and eat the beans and potatoes.
He did.
Love them beans and taters.
Beans, taters, and cornbread.
Yeah,
and that's what
we
he
did.
eat. And them steaks sat there on that table, dude was so upset because we never did get meat like that, you know. That's the first time I'd seen a steak.
I remember one night that Dew and Loretta came to my house in Tacoma and they had dinner with us. And
you ain't gonna tell all of that, are you?
No, I ain't. I'm gonna stop right there. I just hope you don't tell the
I
rest
won't
of
tell
it.
it, baby. I won't. I won't tell it, baby.
How do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, I don't forget nothing.
I saw you on the opera the other night.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, you look great, sweetheart, and you sound just as good as ever.
Thank you, honey.
But Loretta, didn't Buck's television show help you get your first record contract?
Oh, yes, and that's how the guy in Canada seen me, and I was singing Whispering Sea, I think, didn't I, Buck? One I
Yes,
wrote. After
yes, you did.
Yeah, after I got me that songbook, I started writing songs, you know. He'd come in, I'd have about 5 or 6 wrote, and he'd say, honey, every one of them are hits, and they were the worst things I ever heard. As I look back now, you know.
You know, I often thought about those days. Sometimes there you and I were up there trying to sing for somebody, trying to get something going, trying to make a living.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very many years later. I remember we I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years, I guess, after that. And here we were going up getting a lot of awards there. And remember, I'd meet you coming down, you met me coming up, you told me.
Yeah, but you always say, well, we're here together, ain't we, baby?
Yeah.
You know, I could probably get a bigger rating if you folks would fill in the blanks and tell me what you're not going to tell me.
We ain't gonna tell it.
No. There's some things that won't help your ratings or mine either. Well,
Well, let me straighten out a point. Buck, your television show was seen in Canada, I think in British Columbia.
Yeah.
And a fella up there with a lot of money liked Loretta, and he put up the money for her first
Well,
record.
there was 3 or 4 people, and I think he was probably the one who had most. His name was Norm Burley. He owned the big lumber yard in Vancouver, Canada.
Buck, I thank you for participating. You're in Bakersfield. Where are you?
Yeah. Well, I'm right here in Bakersfield. I'm at the Crystal Palace here. But I want to tell you something before you go away. I never told anybody this. It's always kept it to myself. But I said one day I was going to tell this. I used to have the most awful, god-awful crush on Loretta. I couldn't keep from staring at her, you know, even through all the years. But I never did say anything to her because she had a husband and I had a wife, you know.
I didn't know that, Buck. I didn't know that.
Well,
You never told me, and you never said nothing.
There's a couple of reasons I didn't, and we won't talk about them on
Yeah.
the TV.
I know of about 6 kids.
Yeah.
And two
And I had
well, you
3.
had how many?
I had 3.
Yeah, well, then there was 9 kids, a woman and a man. I guess that was a good reason.
Yeah, good reason.
Buck, the rating just went up. What else you got to say?
Well, I tell you something. That's the honest to God truth. I had the office crush on her. I thought she was about the cutest little thing I ever saw. When she came in there, and then I asked Mooney who he was. I said, well, who are you? She said, well, I'm her husband. Oh, man.
Buck, I'm going to sign this off. Tell Buddy I said hi.
I sure will. Thank you for inviting me. And Loretta, I'll see you soon.
Okay, baby, and I love you, and I want to thank
Bye,
you,
sweetheart.
honey. I want to thank you for playing my records when the rest of them stopped.
Well, it's my
You didn't
pleasure.
care. You just let them go.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Let it fly, baby.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
honey.
Buck.
Thanks a lot, Buck. Bless his heart.
Now, I know the story is very famous that you and Dew took that little old Zero record that you made down in Los Angeles with Speedy West, and the title of the record?
Honky Tonk Girl.
I'm a Honky Tonk Girl. And you wrote that song.
Yeah.
And you went to the disc jockeys and you got them to play it and got to be number 14 in the nation. Mm-hmm. And you came on down to Nashville and how'd you get on the Grand Ole Opry? I understand you were on the Grand Ole Opry as a guest maybe 12, 14 times before you were ever made a member.
I think Ernest Tubb put me on the Ernest Tubb record shop first when I started singing. Mm-hmm. And then Doyle and Teddy and...
the Wilburn Brothers?
The Wilburn Brothers. And Ernest Tubb talked to Art Divine
And
about...
he was the head of the Opry.
He was the head of the Opry at that time to let me sing. So he let me sing. And before I left, he said, would you come back next Saturday night? And I said, well, it tickled me to death, you know. And I said, sure, I'll be back. So I was back on Friday night, Saturday night, and I did that 17 weekends straight.
Wow.
I didn't have no work. And that did buy groceries, you know.
Okay, now how...
A little, not much back in them days, but a little.
How did you finally get to Owen, Bradley, and Decca Records.
I went in and cut 9 songs in 3 hours. In these 9 songs, every one of them's cut but one. Kitty Wells cut This White Circle, but Doyle was trying to get me a contract.
So he takes the demo over to Owen Bradley.
Yeah, and Mr. Burley told me when I left, he said, honey, if you get a better deal in Nashville, I'll turn you my contract. And bless his heart, he did. He was a great guy. And Doyle takes the demo over to Owen. Owen listens to the demo, and he's listening for songs, right? For his artist. He says, well, now, Doyle, I like that one song on there for Brenda Lee. I'll take that. Fool number 1. He said, I'm not over here to push a song. I'm over here to push an artist. And he said, I got all kinds of artists. Doyle, I don't need a girl artist. I have Brenda, I have Kitty, and he kept going on. And he said, well, I can't help it. I've got to keep the song for her till I get the contract, you know. So one made a deal. Okay, give me the song and I'll take the artist.
It became a big record for Brenda.
Am I fool number 1 or am I fool number 2? But think about getting 9 songs, and they sound pretty doggone good as I listen to them today on 3 hours.
What'd you record?
I recorded one that Cindy Walker wrote called I Walked Away from the Wreck. And then I recorded Success. Success was my first number 1. That was the second.
That was the second release, wasn't it? And Owen Bradley suddenly had a star, and as he says, a friend.
Best deal he ever made, he said. Well, I love Owen Bradley. If I do anything drastic, Owen knows he's going to get a call from me, and he has to solve it.
During the time that you and Dew and the kids were struggling, didn't you have a little house out here in Goodlettsville or Madison?
We still got the place.
But you had a hard time. And,
Yes, we did.
And a nice, very nice lady came into your life and helped you and became one of your best friends.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about Patsy Cline.
I went to the hospital when she had the wreck, you know. She was in the hospital when I come back to Tennessee. And I sung on the Ernest Tubb Record Shop. Dew helped the songbook up for me to read the words because I didn't know the song. And I read the song. And
What'd you sing?
I dedicated it to Patsy. Now, isn't this stupid? I fall to pieces.
Okay.
Isn't that awful? Patsy, honey, I know you're out there in Madison in the hospital, and I know this is your number 1 song, honey, and I'm going to sing it for you. I fall to pieces. And here she was. I walk in, her leg
Now,
hung up.
didn't she hear that and send for you?
She sent Charlie after me, but she had her leg was all broke. They had it wired to the ceiling in her arm, and one eye, I could see one eye. And then when I walked in, a big tear rolled down her cheek, you know, and that broke my heart.
She liked you immediately.
Oh, I just loved her.
But didn't she help pay some of your bills?
She did everything. She, the night that she died, the next morning we were going to leave early and go buy something for my front room because I didn't have no furniture. And she had curtains made for me and had them hung on Thursday before she died.
She give you clothes?
She gave me clothes from the time I got there.
Pay your rent?
Yeah.
Buy your
Yeah.
drapes? Buy your drapes?
She bought my drapes. Everything that was all a big secret to me, you know.
She came along at a very good time in your life.
She was like an old soul, you know, she was like an older person, but she was still not old. She was just a kid, really. As you look back on them today, most of them are in business today, older than she was when they started. But she was 2 years, I think, older than I was. And she was like a sister, my best friend, and like a mother.
That had
And
to be a terrible blow when she got killed in the plane crash.
Yes, she took on everything, you know, and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know. So, and men do like to got killed at the railroad track when we heard about it, because Dew didn't know. He went to work and he run right back when he heard it on the radio. He run right back. And I listened to you every night, Raph, but I'd call in every night from about 5 states and ask you to play my record. I'd be somebody different every time. But that night I went to sleep because Patsy said she's coming over early and we'd go out shopping.
Did you do that to me?
Yes, I did.
You know who else did that to me?
Who?
Marty Robbins.
Well, I'm glad I ain't the only one.
He changed his voice.
Well, that's the only way we could get our records played. That's the truth.
Oh,
I ain't ashamed. Have to do a lot of things that we don't like, but we have to do them.
but this is the first time I knew he did it, but I didn't know you did it.
Oh, I did it every night. Of course, I'd call 5 or 6 times. You know, like every hour, I'd be up all night. But that night, I didn't listen to the radio. I turned it off. And you know, I like to never went to sleep because I'd always been sitting up listening and doing this. And I like to never went to sleep because in the wind, it sounded like it was playing music the night that plane went down.
Loretta, I want to talk about the movie Coal Miner's Daughter. I think most people know that you had a hit book, Coal Miner's Daughter, the book.
Yes.
And from that came the movie. You picked Sissy Spacek, didn't
Yes.
you? How did that happen?
Mike Maitland was the president of the company at that time, and he brought over a big stack of pictures about that high. And he said, now, Loretta, I want you to look at these pictures. And if there's a Coal Miner's Daughter movie, who would you like to see play that movie? Just tell me who you'd like. I just want your opinion. So I started going through that. There's about a foot of pictures, going through them, and all of a sudden, here come this blonde-headed girl. Didn't look like me, I didn't think, but it was just, that was the Coal Miner's Daughter. She was freckle-faced, and I was freckle-faced, you know. If I get out in the sun, I get spots like that. So she had long, it was a glamour picture of Sissy, real pretty. And I said, this is the Coal Miner's Daughter.
Now, Lane Cross, your manager, told me that they tried to talk you out of this.
Oh, yeah, they had, in fact, they was bringing in other girl singers, and that was costing them $5,000 every time they had to, what is it?
Audition?
Audition, yeah. So I called them and told them they were wasting their money. You know, doing it because Sissy was going to be the Coal Miner's Daughter. Well, poor little old Sissy, she heard me get on the Tonight Show. She heard me on the Merv Griffin Show, Tom Snyder. Everywhere I go, I was saying, Sissy Spacek is the Coal Miner's Daughter. And I'd never met her or anything. Tell how smart I am, can't you?
Well,
but she got to seeing this, see?
Yeah.
And she said, I didn't know what to do, so I talked to my manager. He said, no, you're not going to do that, Sissy. He said, that'll make you look bad if you try to do a movie about a country singer. It'll make you look bad. That made me mad, and when she told me to. But that's not the story, the whole story. She did talk to him and tried to reason with him, saying, well, I might not be that bad. And she said she prayed all night that night. She said, I always listen to rock music. I've never sung nothing but rock. And she said, and I kept my radio dial set right on the rock station. And she said, I prayed all night that night. Please, God, give me a sign if I'm supposed to be the Coal Miner's Daughter. And she said she got up to go get at that time it was 8-track tapes, and said she got up to go get the 8-track tapes, everything I had. And she said she turned the key on, and Coal Miner's Daughter was playing. She says, yes, Lord, yes. She went home and fired her manager.
Didn't she go on the road with you for a year?
For a whole year, we'd, you know, I would do 2 shows a night, and the rest of the night would hang our music, our songs, Fish City, all the songs I'd sang. I played a guitar and went in front, and it's hanging with clothespins on lampshades, and she'd be in the back. They like to kill me, though. I bet I lost 10 pounds.
Well,
because I really worked hard that year. You know.
And she was trying to become you.
Yeah, she's become me. And we do not get together too often, because it's very hard on her.
Why is that?
She goes right back into me.
Into character.
Oh, yeah.
She went on and won an Oscar for that role.
She did. And, you know, I got out to L.A. 3 days before they were doing the Oscar deal. And so I called her up, and she was crying. And I said, Sissy, ain't you ready? She said, I ain't going to get you. Don't Mary Teller Moore's going to get it. And she's just crying. I said, go out and get you a new dress. You better get ready, because you're going to get this. And she couldn't believe it. But she says, you know, I did what you told me. And she said, I felt better after that. And she come and got her Oscar.
Now, I've got something I want to share with you. And I believe this was a feature done by Huell Hauser years ago here in Nashville. And this was the day they wrapped the movie, and they're talking to Sissy and Loretta. And the point of this interview is how much Sissy talks like Loretta.
We sat at the table. I was looking at some pictures that you had done, and Dude come in and said, "You better get out there with the party because you're the hostess." And I said, "Oh no,
I'm the hostess.
that's right. You just go out there and tell Loretta she's the hostess and play it to the hilt."
That's right, and I told everybody just to enjoy my spread. Just have fun, do anything they wanted. I fired a couple of people.
Says pull Loretta's flowers up. Go out there in
That's
the
right.
garden. I had to run everybody
I
out
know.
of my garden.
She worked in her garden all last week, and I got the dadgumdest blister.
It is amazing.
She told the story once that when she was on stage a couple of years ago, the boy said to her, "Mom, did you know your hair was about 9 inches shorter in the back?" She went, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me?" And they said, "Well, it's been that way for about 3 years." And she said,
3 months, I
about 3 months, I'm sorry. About 3 months. She said, "Well, that was before I was caring about the back of my hair.
That's
I
before
didn't,
listen, what I seen behind didn't bother me.
as long as it
What
looked
I
good in the
seen-
front."
Right.
How did you meet Conway Twitty?
The way I met Conway Twitty, I was a big fan of Conway's when he come out with Only Make Believe. And somebody give me a great big old poster of Conway. Man, I had that poster up on my front room. Paper wasn't too pretty, but Conway Twitty was up there. And so I'd tell Dude, "Boy, now this is a singer that I really like." And Dude liked Connie Francis, so it made me jealous. So I got Conway Twitty. Then one day when he made me mad, I broke all of his records of Connie Francis. He didn't have any money to buy any more, so he had a hard time getting them. So I didn't have the money to buy Conway Twitty, so why should he buy Connie Francis?
Sounds fair to me.
That sounded fair to me too. So I just got through singing "Happy Birthday, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year." You remember that song I had out?
Yes, I do.
Anyway, I walked in just 3 days after I got through recording. I knew Owens was in there, so I just went in to aggravate him a little bit. You know, I had a lot of time on my hands in them days. So I walked in and I said, he was recording somebody. And whoever it was in the control room, and I didn't look in the control room, and Owen come walking out. And he said, "So you're a big Conway Twitty fan?" I said, "How do you know that?" And he said, "Well, I've heard you talk about it." I said, "Yep, I had him up on my wall." And he said, "Well, how would you like to meet Conway?" And I said, "Baloney." I said, "I'll never be able to see him. I'll never meet him. I'll never be able to meet him." He said, "Oh, he's starting to sing country now." And I said, "No way." Conway comes walking out. Well, he's just like his poster. I almost hit the floor. You know, I said, my eyes got big, and I said, "Conway Twitty?" He said, "Yes, I am." You know how he talked. If it had "Hello, Darling" out at that time, it said, "Hello, darling." But he come walking out, and I like to faint it. I know he probably thought I was stupid. And I am a little bit, but who cares?
But you became good friends.
Oh, the best of friends. And do love Conway.
What was your first hit?
The first song we had out.
Which was?
Love is where you find it when you find no love at home.
You became the Diamond Duet, and you won 4 CMA awards as the Duo of the Year.
We won 12 Music City News Awards straight.
It was one of the most successful couplings in the history of
Yes.
country music. I spoke to Dee yesterday, and she said, "Tell you hello."
Well, bless her heart.
Dee, of course, was Conway's wife. I
Yes.
think you were with her when
When
he
Conway
died. weren't you?
died. When they brought Conway in, I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. It was the worst thing I've ever been through, really. I stayed with Dee, and I stayed with the band for a while with Dee, and and I'd run up to see Dee, and then I'd come back to sit with Dee, and I'd run back to see how Dee was, because Dee was in real bad shape. They thought he was going to die, anytime. So I was in bad shape myself. After so long, here come the chaplain. I knew all of them by that time. I hadn't been praying enough. I'm telling you, I'd been praying with all of them, and there was about 9 of them in that hospital. So I knew them all, and one of them come to me and said, "Come here, honey." I went over to him, and he said, "Do you want to see Conway?" I said, "Why? What's wrong?" He said, "You want to see him? You're going to see him for the last time alive." And I said, "No." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, let me take Dee. I grabbed Dee by the hand. I said, Dee, let's go see Conway. So I went in telling Conway, I said, Conway, don't you die on me. I said, you know you love to sing. You're going to be all right. And I thought he would. They had him on a live thing. And Dee talked to him and said, Conway, you've pulled through harder things than this. Then I run upstairs to see Dew. They come in right behind me and said, Conway died. So I run back down. Conway, that tucked the life thing off of him, he was still warm. I didn't even see Dee as I went around there. She was covered in a blanket, kinda, and I didn't see anybody. Tell you the truth, I don't remember seeing a soul. I just ran to where Conway was, and they had him pulled right by the curtain. And I fell out of him, and I said, Conway, come down, because I've always heard your spirit is over your body. I don't know. Only God knows. I'm just telling you what I've heard. I was hollering, come down, Conway, come down.
Conway Twitty passed away June the 5th, 1993, at a hospital in Springfield, Missouri. He died of an abdominal aneurysm. A real coincidence in this story is that Loretta Lynn was at the hospital in Springfield, Missouri, when they brought Conway Twitty there. She was there because they were treating her husband, Mooney. Mooney had a terrible problem with diabetes. Mooney would survive that trip to Springfield, but pass away 3 years later in August of 1996. I knew Mooney. A lot of us here knew Mooney, and we loved him and we just liked to be around him. He was fun to be around. And you know, when we all went down to Grand Cayman and did those shows down there, he was with us. What happened to Mooney?
This was the hardest thing I think I've ever went through. I think it's been harder on me since he's been gone, even, because when I was with him, he was with me, you know? Mm-hmm. I was either sitting in a chair by his bed sleeping, or I was on the couch sleeping beside of him. And they just kept cutting on him. They'd cut a foot and then a leg, and yeah, he had. When he quit drinking, I guess that's a shock to your body. And then I heard on TV one day when you sometimes you lose a loved one, you get sugar diabetes from that. Well, I knew when we lost our son, him and my son was just alike, and that's why I love my son so much. He looked just like his daddy, and that was just what I wanted. I wanted that baby that looked just like its daddy. And Dew knew that I loved that baby so much and loved that kid when he grew up so much, because he did look like him. Whatever Dew done one day, Jack would do it the next. If he seen him do it one day, Jack would do the same thing the next. So he wanted to be just like his daddy, and he was. And so I think when he died, I think that Doolittle started going down then. But the hardest part was seeing him cut his legs off, knowing how he liked to work on the farm, and you know, and he loved to drive. He loved to drive that Jeep. And I've been home 3 or 4 times, but I go down and do my shows, and I come right back to town. It's hard on me yet.
She was born Loretta Webb. She became Loretta Lynn. She was born April the 14th, 1935 in Butcher Holler, Kentucky. Got married at the tender age of 13 9/10. She stayed married to only one man, that was Mooney. She came to Nashville in 1960 with her first record, I'm a Honky Tonk Girl. That led to many, many awards, Female Vocalist of the Year many times, Entertainer of the Year, finally a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame. Today, Loretta continues her career, though Mooney is gone. Loretta continues to record. She continues to perform on the stages of America. Loretta Lynn, one of a kind.